Welcome. My name is Pandy for those who have not seen the show before or heard the show, but you are listening to the Human Resource. Today we're going to talk about religious discrimination. This is a topic that we haven't really covered much on the show, and I ran across a case with the EEOC, and I thought this might be a really good one we need to approach because there's stuff going on out there that we really need to be mindful of. But this case goes back to October of 2024. Center One in Capital Management agreed to pay an ex-employee $60,000 because of a religious accommodation suit. The EEOC lawsuit alleged that in October of 2016, an employee of Center Capital, an inherent of Messianic Judaism, requested a reasonable accommodation of a religious belief requiring abstaining from work on religious observance days. Now, the EEOC charged that Center One refused to grant the employee a schedule modification to observe religious holidays because he was unable to provide a certification from a religious leader or a religious organization supporting his request. Instead, the company imposed disciplinary points against the employee for his religious-based absences, even after being informed he just simply wasn't able to obtain the requested certification. He wasn't a member of a regular congregation, and if you know anything about Messianic Judaism, there aren't a lot of congregations with this belief. Thereby, the employee had to resign. He quit. He was not going to work on the days that he had requested off. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a perfect example of a violation against Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so I really kind of want to go back over what that actually means. And we all think that we know things not to do when we talk about discriminating other individuals, but when we talk about religion, this gets highly emotional. This is different than racial discrimination. Religious discrimination is, it's not well spoken about. We don't necessarily recognize it right away. And what's crazy is we handle it a little bit differently because think about this case that we just talked about with Center One. The individual, whether they were HR or the supervisor, whoever it was that was engaging with this employee, the individual asked for certification of proof. And believe it or not, when we're talking about religious protections, individuals don't have to provide proof that their honest beliefs, their sincerely held beliefs around religion are validated by the employer or by their supervisor. All they have to do is say, this is what I believe. I've believed it for a while. I follow it as best I can. And we're to take that as enough evidence. Employers are not to treat employees or applicants less or more favorable because of their religious beliefs or practices. So if somebody who is Catholic, who has a congregation, had asked for this, abstaining from observant days of their religion, they don't get the accommodation just because they can say, yeah, my Catholic church is on the corner of West and High. And this individual who doesn't have a church, well, they don't get it because we don't believe them. It just as an example, an employer may not refuse to hire individuals of a certain religion and may not impose stricter promotion requirements for persons of a certain religion and may not impose more or different work requirements on an individual because of that employee's religious beliefs or practices. Straight from the regs under Title VII. How many of you have supervisors that you have trained to understand this? And I'm going to guess that it hasn't been a topic at your management meeting recently. I every so often get approached by companies who say, well, we hold Bible study, on every Tuesday morning before work starts. And I say, that's great. That is totally your prerogative. But employees do understand they don't have to participate, right? This is only if they want to, not required because they work here. And employers are quick to say, oh yeah, we would never do that. We would never do that. But what are they doing? And this is where I'm challenging you. Look, if you are having activities that are religiously oriented, I had a client the other day who they had a big picnic with everyone around the room, and someone spoke up and said, oh, well, we can't even start until we say grace. And amidst the employees, we had some atheists, and the atheists removed themselves. And one of the employees got a little upset. Well, tough. That individual cannot be forced to sit and participate if they don't share your beliefs or those particular beliefs that are being carried on. Another issue that I want you to be aware of is that employers must permit employees to engage in religious expression if employees are permitted to engage in other personal expression at work. So unless the religious expression would impose an undue hardship on the employer, you can't put more restrictions on one side than the other. I had a manufacturing firm who had a number of individuals who wanted to pray at a certain time in the day. So the employer actually bought the mats and knew that automatically at this point during the day, those individuals would go get their mats. They would go to a certain area of the building, sometimes outside, and they would be taking their breaks to pray. And that was totally an accommodation appropriate for what they were trying to accomplish. But at the same time, if you've got someone who absolutely has another request of accommodation based on their religion, you have to abide by that too. You have to acknowledge everyone's particular and personal beliefs and not judge. Employers must take steps to prevent religious harassment of employees. So we were very, very conscientious of individuals who complained because, well, they're over there on their mats and I'm over here working and this just isn't fair. No complaining. None. Those are the employees that we have to pull aside and say, you're just going to have to tolerate it. I don't want any judgment. You're not going to treat them differently. It's unlawful to retaliate against an individual for opposing employment practices that discriminate based on religion or even filing a discrimination charge. If someone's complaining and saying their supervisor is not choosing them to be on a part of a team because they know, they're not going to work on Sundays because of their religion, or if they've said flat out, we worship and we observe our holiday on Saturdays, and I can't do anything after sunset on Friday, that supervisor cannot treat them differently. Obviously, we're going to adjust the schedule a little bit, but beyond that, you can't withhold promotions. You can't withhold increases. You can't withhold information. You can't treat them differently. I worry about this sometimes. I seriously worry about this. Accommodations can come in a form of adjusting their work environment that would allow employees to practice their religion. How about flexible scheduling, voluntary substitutions or swaps if they want to trade days with somebody, job reassignments, lateral transfers, modifying work practices. Policies and procedures are examples of how an employer can maybe, accommodate somebody. But remember, accommodations don't put undue pressure. They don't put undue hardship on the company. And this is another area where I really tell employers, be very careful before you pull the card of undue hardship. Undue hardship is not, I just don't feel like doing it. Undue hardship is very, very much oriented to, what the business is involved in and how much this is going to cost in terms of the accommodation. That's a wonderful topic to be talking to your employment attorney about. It's a wonderful topic to talk to a very experienced HR consultant. Don't make those kind of decisions by yourself. And please don't let a supervisor make those kind of decisions without partnering with a senior member of management. The last thing you want to have happen is what Center One is going through with their concern, where someone actually resigned and went and filed a claim with the EEOC and said, look, I should have been able to take that time off. I shouldn't have been told that I was going to be held to the attendance policy. I was treated differently because I have a different religion. Look, I can't tell you enough that these are real world problems, and the possibility of you having it there in your company might be greater than you realize. Teach your team. Start now. Teach your supervisors to partner and ask, hey, does this sound right? This is how I want to respond. This is what I want to do. Do you think this makes sense? Is this in the best interest of the company? Is this in the best interest of the employee? Where is this going to put us in terms of compliance with the law? I don't expect anybody to be well-versed in everything. But again, the more you tell us what you need, the more we can help you with these challenges and challenges like it, the more likely you won't end up in these announcements from the EEOC, and I won't be talking about you on this show. We really appreciate you watching. And hey, I've been getting phenomenal feedback on the new podcast studio. We are so proud of it, and I cannot thank the team here at ICRC-TV enough. They have gone out of their way to acknowledge the success of the show and to encourage all of you to keep listening. We really enjoy what we do, and we want to do it for you. So again, thank you for listening, and come back. We'll be here waiting on you.